So this one's the one I was showing photos of. It's the only one that I actually have set up at the moment because my other one's in a box and my other one's on a shelf. But I'll show you just the easy breakdown. So mine doesn't really clip in quite well with I have the floppy cable. So this is the floppy cable that actually fits in the back of this housing, but I'll show you the housing. So I'm just gonna put this over here. And yeah, I already have it unscrewed. So all you need, like I showed you, all you need to do is, if my housing will do the thing it's supposed to do. So it just comes out, housing comes out. This is the cable. This is your power cable to the hard drive. So I just unfeed it here, pull it here. Then there's the hard drive cable. So these two pop out. Then the cable comes right out, and then down here is where the actual floppy cable would actually hold. So you have this is the widget cable for the widget hard drive. You have the power cable for the widget hard drive that also powers the fan. So it's all an all-in-one casing. So the thing to do without crushing this phone would be to, so there's a disc down here. It's actually a flywheel, if you can see, and it's got notches on it. And those notches actually tell the computer how fast, like through a sensor, how fast the actual drive is spinning. So what you're going to want to do is with your computer, let's say with your computer faceplate off, you can grab a Q-tip. This is the best way of doing it, or the best way that I've found doing it. So you stick this in here and slide it down. And and then basically what you can do is just take the housing and you can just hook it up just for the drive. So I've got this cable, and then you have the widget drive cable. Widget drive cable goes right back in here, and then you can click it down on both sides. Both of those should click right in, and then put this aside. It should, in theory. Now this one's really loud because this drive actually has bad bearings. So your drive won't sound like this. My drive sounds really bad. I don't care. I'm just gonna ride it out until it dies because I don't feel like spending money. So you see the drive light is blinking. It's spinning up on the inside. I have to give it a little while because this one doesn't like doing anything. Here she comes to life. That means that the drive is thinking, as you can see. Its activity light's on. You can hear it making noises. Now, when this drive, like, it takes a long time because what the drive's doing right now is it's looking for every single sector on the disk and confirming that the disk is actually working before even booting up the machine. So that's why it's super loud. It's making a ton of noise because my platters are all screwy and everything else about that. So I'm just going to let it boot up real quick before I shut it off because I don't want to shut it off midway through the drive. This one's going to look different from yours because I actually have the 800K drive, because this isn't really a Lisa. This is actually it is an actual XL. So it doesn't have the screen modification. It doesn't have the 3A ROMs. It is a stock Lisa, just with different ROMs for the floppy disk drive and a different cable that goes from here to the floppy disk drive, and it's like a snipped off pin on the floppy drive. So that's completely different from what you have. You just have a 400K drive. So right now I'm booting into, I actually also have a PFG in here. So it allows me, so let's see. Oh, wow. Error reading sector. Well, there you go. There's my drive being a pain in the butt. So try it again. See if my drive's finally gone. As you can see, it's reading through the sectors. Oh, there you go. So that's I'm running MacWorks Plus right now. And it sounds crazy bad. It sounds really bad. But that's an example of how you can test it from outside. And I'll show you here in a second what to do if you want to, what to do if it's still giving you issues. So I'm going to let it park the heads. There it goes. It's really loud. So what you can do is what you want to do here, sorry, I was reading a text, is you can pull the drive out. If it's still stiff and nothing's moving in it, you can pull the drive out, and I'm sure you'll be able to find a video of how to pull this drive in particularly apart. It's not hard, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to some of these boards slide out, and then you have, so there's boards that are connected, like I think these two top boards are connected to each other, so they slide out onto this board edge connector here, and then there's another edge connector, and then all these boards, there's also a stopper here. You got to pull this stopper out. These boards come out, and then you want to pull this back housing out. Obviously, you want to remove it from this actual casing, so you're going to pull out the screws, 3 screws on each side, and then after you pull out those boards, that you can pull this end off. There's a couple screws on the back, and you can pull that off. And then there is a dust cover that has, I think, yeah, 1, 2. So it's right underneath here on top of the platter. You can, or on top of the actual drive. It's what's covering it, keeps the dust out. Now, because it's only a 10 megabyte drive, you can open up that without dust getting into it and ruining the drive. It's not going to ruin anything. But it's good to take a look, and sometimes, like, you don't want to touch anything. You don't want to touch the platter. You don't want to touch anything. But it's sometimes good to, you know, just, sometimes I get them to work by just pulling it off and putting it back on. Sometimes it's just as simple as that, or it's just as simple as pulling this out of the caddy, right, without removing anything else, and just spin that wheel a bunch of times. You can actually just remove this from the cage itself, the caddy cage, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. You can remove it out of here, and then you can just plug it in and spin it, and then hopefully wait for the drive to kick in and see if it starts spinning up the actual hard drive. Because if that's not spinning, I mean, the drive's dead in the water. It can't read anything. It can't read any of the sectors. It can't do shit. So what you're going to want to do is you can pull it out and try to spin it, and hopefully what we'll do is we'll free it up. Now, if they're really gummed up, you're going to want to keep spinning it, move it back and forth. What I did is I do a half-ass job. You're not supposed to do it this way. I do it because I don't give a crap about these old drives, because we've got replacements already. We have opportunities to just replace them with the X Profile, and then there's the Profile Emulator, and I forget what the new one is now that is causing issues with between the Sun remarketing people, but because of copyright problems with that one cat person online. But there are replacements that you can do with this, and then you also have, like, if you have the profile cards, like mine has 2 profile cards in it, you can do it that way. You can boot off of a profile drive. If you have a profile drive, you can boot off of that externally. So there's all different types of ways to boot up if you can't use it that way. But obviously, if you want to use Lisa OS, you actually have to have an internal or an external hard drive. You can't use the floppy disk emulator for that. You can't just use a floppy disk. It needs to actually be installed. If you have, like, the Apple Lisa 2, which you do have, you need to have it installed on either drive, because it's not the widget version. So you're going to have a hard drive working either way to do it. You probably already know that, but I'm just going to let you know that. It's just so if you don't, you're just not like, oh, why won't this Lisa boot off of the, because it just doesn't. I don't know why. It's just an Apple thing, Apple being Apple. That's about it. But I hope this makes it a little more simpler to talk about, a little better explanation. These things aren't hard at all to work on. They're probably the easiest thing I've ever had to work on. It even tells you if you have a bad RAM module, all you need to do is type a certain amount of keys. It comes up and it tells you the bad RAM module, exactly where it's located on the RAM module, so you can pull it out and then pull that chip off, replace it with a new chip, and then the RAM module will work. Because there's an MMU inside of this Macintosh when they didn't actually have an MMU, or I mean inside of this Lisa, when they didn't actually have an MMU into another Mac until the Mac 2. So this being a Mac XL, or you saying having a Lisa, it took them a couple Macs or Apple IIs to come back with something with an MMU. So it's great to, have something that can actually do research for you, that makes it a lot easier to fix. These things are super easy to work on. They tell you everything. It's just a lot nicer using one of these than actually, working on a Macintosh. These things are so easy, so simple. I love to work on them. I love them.